I am Yuji, a personal trainer. If you're training your pectoral muscles but feel like you're not really feeling the effects, or if you're working hard but not seeing results and want to build your chest more effectively, I encourage you to try the form corrections I'm about to introduce. Correcting your form can lead to significant changes. It's not just a minor adjustment. That's right. To be honest, just changing this 1 centimeter can drastically alter how effective and how it feels. When you look at someone without clothes, you can't really tell at all. Well, since I work as a personal trainer and have seen hundreds and thousands of people right in front of me, I can point out that if this 1 centimeter is different, then I can say to adjust it this way or that way. I even mention 5 millimeters sometimes, and when they make just a slight adjustment of about 1 centimeter, it often results in a completely different and much more intense workout for the pectoral muscles. I want you all to experience the feeling of engaging the pectoral muscles through form correction. For now, I think it's just about listening to this information and keeping it in mind. However, when you do the next dumbbell press for pectoral training, please try making that 1 centimeter adjustment. First, I will explain each point one by one. The first thing to be careful about is the width, specifically a 1 centimeter width. This 1 centimeter width refers to the distance when viewed from above, as if you were looking down at the width when the weights are lowered. The width when following is generally about the same for most people, around 90%, maybe even 95%. They tend to use weights that are at their limit, which means their vertical distance is actually more inward. Most people are positioned more inward than vertical. It's subtle, but if it's not, it feels too difficult to manage. Everyone tends to focus on the weight and thinks they can barely manage 10 reps, so that aspect becomes particularly important. In reality, large companies are growing. It's common to get too tight and end up pulling in, so try changing your position by just 1 centimeter from where you usually feel comfortable. Just make sure that when you shift 1 centimeter outward, the dumbbell doesn't tilt. It should always feel like the dumbbell is stable. You move horizontally. And when it comes to the wrists, it feels a bit like this. You move in this manner. When you lower it, the lowest position should be 1 centimeter further back than where you think it is. Just 1 centimeter. By doing this, you can continue with your reps, rep by rep, not here, but here. Not. So, it feels like this is the bottom position, and this is what I'm kind of doing here. I'm just pushing out 1,000 like this. If you are going to do 10 sets, make sure to pay attention to each repetition. Just this one line of guidance can lead to a significant improvement in your performance. It's important to maintain that focus throughout. The pattern tends to become narrower, and while it may just be getting tighter, when you think about lifting during the next moment, you often end up pulling inward. It's also crucial to correct that. Try opening your elbows about 1 centimeter outward and gently push them in that direction. First, focus on changing this width by 1 centimeter. Next, let's talk about the wrists. It's all about the wrists, to be honest. In most cases, the wrists are quite bent. They are really bent. Can you see it? Since it's not visible, I'll demonstrate without the dumbbells. When doing this without the dumbbells, many people have their wrists bent like this. Right now, they are quite horizontal. This can be adjusted by 1 centimeter or even 5 millimeter. It might just be 5 millimeter. This distance isn't much, so let's raise it a little bit. Just by adjusting this 1 centimeter back, it changes the angle to about 45 degrees or maybe 30 degrees from above. When you do it this way, the feeling of the load on the pectoral muscles is completely different. Because this is shifted just 1 centimeter, the load escapes around the wrists, and the amount that escapes here means that even if you're holding 10 kilo, it feels like it should be 20 kilo. It feels like something is escaping by about 1 to 1.5 kilograms over here. However, by simply bringing it back by just 1 centimeter, that 1.5 kilograms that was escaping will suddenly come back into place. The sensation changes significantly with this 1.5 kilograms in relation to the 10 kilograms, and you can actually see this. You can catch a glimpse of it with your eyes, so moving your neck allows you to see it. Just slightly raising your wrist can make a difference. This is visible. Even if you only raise this part, it will affect how it goes up and down during the movement. The most important part is when you lower the weights. You need to return this position by 1 centimeter when you lower it. Please pay attention to this every single rep. Otherwise, by the last few reps, like 8, 9, and 10, you might unconsciously let your form slip. So, when you bring it back by 1 centimeters, it should feel like the bar is positioned more towards your wrists, as if you have a double bar resting on them. This way, it will align perfectly with your pectorals. Focus on your wrist position now. That's true, but a common issue is that while the right side is fine, the left side often isn't. So, at the moment you lower the weights, I recommend that at first you check both the right and left sides yourself. You will notice if the left side is not aligned. If you realize that you need to correct only the left side, then you can maintain that awareness and always focus on bringing the left side back to the correct position while keeping an eye on the right side. Additionally, there is one very important point regarding the 1 centimeter adjustment that needs to be made. This is something I often talk about, but when doing dumbbell presses, it's not just about thinking of lifting the dumbbells or raising what's in front of you. It's about pulling with the pectoral muscles. That's the main point I emphasize. If you only focus on lifting the weights, everything tends to go in a way where you might not be able to lift them overhead properly, and if that happens, your shoulders will rise, which means you're not effectively engaging the pectorals. What this means is that if the training isn't resulting in proper contraction, then it's not effective. I want you to maintain the arch in your back and the arch in your torso, while keeping your shoulders pressed down so that they don't rise. I mentioned that if this foundational arch is compromised, you should not lift beyond that point. However, many people struggle to execute this properly, even if they understand it. When you actually try it, you might notice that the shoulders are slightly raised or that the ribs have dropped a bit. When the ribs drop, the shoulders tend to rise. So, what should you do? You need to lift the ribs. When you push up with the elbows, the ribs will naturally lift. There's a point where the ribs protrude the most, and I want to demonstrate this a bit exaggeratedly. Imagine doing this in front of a camera from a distance of 1000 mm. You see, I tend to go a bit extreme with this, but when I push it up, I also slightly lift my rib cage. I'm intentionally doing it a bit exaggerated. It really doesn't move much beyond this point. It's truly just my own sense of it. If I say that there's an arm that pushes the rib cage up, it might be hard to understand, so I've stopped my arm. It feels like there are levels. This level, this level, this level, but at the moment of lifting, I'm exhaling. I'm exhaling. But when you exhale, everyone usually ends up like this. It gets concave. Even though you're exhaling and it looks concave, you need to lift your rib cage up by 1 centimeter while extending your arms. You're exhaling, but remember to lift your rib cage. While doing the dumbbell press, feel as if you are pushing up the ribs while exhaling. By pushing the elbows, you can perform the dumbbell press without raising the form while maintaining the arch. If you don't intend to lift even 1 centimeter and you try to do it in a neutral state at 0, many people tend to drop it when they do it in a neutral state without any force applied. So, in this part, it's okay to touch this at first. You can practice this much. As you practice, you'll understand what this is. Once you grasp this, you can try it slowly without dumbbells. When doing it slowly, if you push up the ribs a little along with your arms, it should feel like your shoulders are healthy and the wings there will feel pushed down. First, try practicing it without dumbbells and lift high. You don't need to lift any higher than where you can push up while being pressed down. Once you can do that, try holding the dumbbells and remember to inhale and exhale while focusing on your ribs. Exhale while pushing up the ribs. This is how it goes. Right now I'm actually holding a dumbbell and pushing up my ribs. But if you were to film this yourself, it probably looks like I'm not moving at all. It's perfectly fine if it looks like I'm not moving. It's not about raising it 1 centimeter. In reality, the pain comes from not moving, so you have to resist that force. When I say lose, I mean that this is where it drops. If you don't intend to lift up the ribs by 1 centimeter, they will drop. And that's why maintaining the position is crucial. So even when you're not doing anything, you should think of pushing up the ribs slightly, while also pushing with your elbows. This way, you can finally maintain the same shape, while drawing an arch In reality, it's fine to be in a stationary state. Now, I mentioned to raise it once in tennis like this, but you might wonder if raising it too much is bad for your lower back. This is where the importance of exhaling comes into play. When you exhale while raising the ribs, your stomach tightens. So, you should exhale properly, but don't exhale completely. Just let out about 50 to 60% of the air, keeping around 40% of the air inside. While in this position, you exhale as you push out, and everything closes together. You push out, but you also exhale and tighten. Now, these three actions happen simultaneously. Additionally, the fourth action is that the elbows rise. All of this happens together. And while the sound of breathing isn't necessary, it's important to note that everything is occurring at the same time, exhaling while pushing up and tightening. It's all happening simultaneously. It is performed in such a way that everything finishes at the same time. Well, I hope you don't make a mistake with this timing. As I mentioned earlier, it's not about pushing too high. You push up, but by pressing, you stay still and stabilize, which prevents back pain. This is the 1 cm angle. If you try to raise it to 5 cm, it can be quite dangerous. But by keeping it to 1 cm, it becomes manageable. Initially, this is difficult. So as I said, try practicing without dumbbells first, and then move on to using dumbbells. Also, make sure that with the dumbbells, you are not pushing yourself to the limit of 10 repetitions. Can you do about 15 to 20 reps? First, try with the weight and create some intervals. Once you understand that, you can try it with your usual weight. That's how the training form works. The width and things like 6 pieces and 5 cm are really hard to tell from a person's perspective. It's truly hard to see, but even a 1 cm difference can significantly change how the pectoralis major is engaged. If you do it this way, about twice a week, over a total of 60 days, by the time 2 months have passed, you should see changes. Well, I only do about 8 to 10 repetitions of strength training, but I really feel that my pectoralis major has changed quite a bit at 60. I believe that this 1 cm home correction will make a difference. Please try it out next time. Also, let me know your thoughts after trying it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Instagram. I am engaged with the Father Trainer.